All right.
Okay.
All right, so I'll call to order the September 9th, 2022 Communications Committee meeting. It is 9:16 a.m. And the first order of business that we have is approval of the June 2022 Communications Committee meeting. So if just get a motion to approve those minutes.
I move to approve.
All right. And since Steve, you weren't on communication back then, I'll go ahead and second. All in favor?
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, David.
With one abstention.
Noted. All right. So with that, the minutes are approved. First order of business is an update on the Weston Public Schools website.
Yes. So this is the most important thing that we're going to be working on over the next 6 months. A couple of years ago, the district dropped the previous website provider and went with a self-hosting ideology with a product called WordPress, which is an incredibly powerful website design and development tool. However, it's extremely advanced. And over the past 2 years, the feedback that I've received and really everybody's received is that our website is cumbersome, janky, and difficult to navigate. And from the staff, it's also very difficult to update. It's not as straightforward. There are many website provider companies out there that are specific, which make things.
Sharon, I think you're, hang on a second.
Yeah,
Sharon,
they're mowing, so let me.
There you go. So, we want our website to be easily navigatable for the public. And the average person looks at a website for 7 seconds before they leave, and there's no way they can find what they're looking for on our website in 7 seconds. So after a lot of feedback and a lot of discussion, we've decided to we've made the decision that we are going to be transitioning away from our self-host design to a company called Gabbert Communications. And the cost is almost a complete wash versus what we were paying for self-hosting fees and what we will be paying Gabbert for. We are starting the transition process already. They've already done a few mock-ups that I'll show during the meeting today, just so we can get some feedback. And we have an official go live date of our website migration for January 3rd, 2023. Now, one of the options was to wait a full year to go live, but I and everybody feels that our website is in such bad condition that people can't find things anyways, and we're losing visits every day because it's just very difficult to navigate through. So January 3rd, we start fresh, the beginning of the calendar year. We will notify families. Obviously we're saying it, this is the first time we're mentioning it publicly. We will also be sending out multiple emails to families to let them know, like, bookmarks are going to have to change, because families, they don't necessarily bookmark westonps.org, right? They bookmark the school that their child goes to, the school's website. So those are going to have to change. So we will be sending out communication with that. And we did a lot of discussion, and I did a lot of feedback from other school districts. And we feel that Gabbert is far and away the best host and the best provider that we have. Their web editing tool is very simple to use for the staff members at the particular buildings in order to update what needs to be updated, while keeping the overall theme of our website intact. What happens now is we can't lock a theme in WordPress. So when users make changes to their school's website, it may modify that school website and change the overall theme, which then makes it more difficult and confusing to the residents to visit other sites. So if you're a parent and you have students, children in two schools, right? Let's say the middle school and the intermediate school, you want them to look the same with the same navigation menus. but over time they change. And no matter how much we fix it, that's just how it goes. And that's not a shot at the staff members. That's a limitation of WordPress. The people who update the websites, that's just a small portion of their job. So to have them jump through hoops with a very expansive and advanced editor, it's too much. So I wanted to show, two local districts just recently migrated over to Gabbert Communications. So I'll pull up one of them. One of them is Wilton Public Schools, and another one is Norwalk Public Schools. But I'm just going to show. So this is just an example of what Gabbert Communications websites look like. They have hundreds of design templates. But this is just, what Wilton is doing. And a lot of this will transition similarly to how our website looks like. We'll be able to easily migrate all of the data over in a format similar to this. We have a lot of open-ended questions that we're going to be answering over the next few months while we're setting up our mock-up site, and certain modules like the slideshow in the beginning, this first slideshow. I don't know if we're going to use that as a district. And the reason is when you upload pictures to the website, they're stagnant. And you have to remember to replace them every once in a while. Well, for us, Lisa and the principals are so incredible with Instagram. Why don't we just have our Instagram feed instead of static pictures that have to be uploaded? So small things like that.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
So do parents have to approve of their children's pictures being put up on?
Yes, they
Yes.
do. Yes, every single year, the families have to sign off on a few different yearly agreements. Medical, medicine distribution, and then publishing photos and pictures online, publishing photos in print. It is an opt-out policy, so they are opted in, and they have to specify that they are opting out of said policy. But
Yep.
they are asked every single year to update that, and then each school has a list of who cannot be, whose parents have said no to publishing online.
Okay.
So, this is just, it's a standard horizontal navigation bar. It would be combined. And then we have these bullets, and we have very similar bullets to what Wilton has over here. I'm going to actually open up Weston's page, and I'm going to share over here. Bingo. So we have these bullets over here. We have our podcast. Everything is going to be easily transferred over to the template. So I just received 2 mock-ups this morning. So I just wanted to show them to you, just get some feedback. Nothing is set in stone. Again, this is the beginning phases, but this is mock-up 1. And every section can be toggled on or off. So how it says slideshow here, like I said, we can toggle off the slideshow and make it just the Instagram feed. But this is our mock-up so far. This is mock-up 1 with the color schemes. One of the things that I personally liked as a change was the calendar, which I like showing both. So the left side, you have the agenda list, and then on the right side, you have the actual calendar where they can click on the specific days.
Dan, so the calendar has been my biggest pet peeve.
Yes, sir.
So is this a calendar that's like the town's calendar where people can subscribe to it and get notifications from it?
So this is one of the questions that I have to follow up with them about. I think they have an internal calendar or a Google Calendar. Now, we do have subscribe options for all of our calendars. So people can subscribe to all of our district calendars. So I'm going to toggle back here. So even though it's Google, see how it says right here, subscribe to the WPS district calendar? So we do have that, and we have that at each school level now. We did add that subscribe button. And the reason why I'm hesitant to going to an internal type of calendar, like a calendar that's hosted by the website, instead of Google, is we are a Google district. And so as a Google school, we already have access to the calendar. So when we're creating an appointment, for instance, when Jody is setting up the Board of Ed meeting schedule on the calendar, she just sets a little flag to publish it on our www district calendar. So if we move to a different type of calendar, now that's something separate she's going to have to log into and update. So that's where I'm a little bit on the fence about whether we do it internally or whether we continue with a Google Calendar, but just with more clear instructions on subscribing to the calendar.
Okay, I don't have my list handy, but I remember we've spent a lot of time talking about the public school calendar versus the town calendar, and I don't remember all the details, but it seems like the way the town does it is much more effective than us. And I think, I don't have my notes handy, but I know we spoke at length. That was, I think, one of the biggest pet peeves was meetings that change, how to proactively let people know a meeting has changed. So whatever we can do to improve, I think the calendar piece.
100%. Yeah, and I'll find out more information from Gabbert, and I'll bring it to our next communications meeting to explain, what our options are in terms of the calendar.
Okay.
So that was mock-up 1. This is design mock-up 2. So it's more of a blue background. Very similar modules, but they just look slightly different. The icons over here are more graphic than picture-based. But it's
can I interrupt for 2 seconds? I have to say, I think that is so much clearer.
This one?
Yeah, as far as the buttons, when they have the graphics in there, I think it gets lost.
I agree with you.
So either pictures like this or just no pictures, just the words like what Wilton has on theirs would be my preference, because I think that's just so much clearer.
Yes.
To the user. So
yes.
Just my 2 cents.
I do agree. I'm looking to do a hybrid of the mock-up. It's similar things. Like, I personally like the blue background. I don't know how everyone else feels. I like the icon list. I do not like this Weston logo. I like the Weston logo of this one better. I like this layout better. If we reverse the coloring, I do feel that looks nicer. But if you go back, I mean, the information presented is exactly the same. It's just the change of the graphics.
But those changes are actually really, believe it or not, really important.
Yeah.
From a user perspective, the GUI, like something like this is super important.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And also, these websites will they'll be ADA compliant, which is something that we've always had to push, our website to be more ADA compliant. So as part of the subscription with Gabbert is there's a company that kind of scours our website to ensure ADA compliance. So there's additional things. So things are supposed to be clear and legible. And so that's how you want every website to be: clear, legible, and easy to navigate. And one of the best practices, why I brought it up a couple of times, is you don't want people to have to scroll down too far on a website, right? You want the main information on the first page as soon as they load up the page. And the slideshow takes up too much of that information. I'd much rather have it smaller and more of the information, like the calendar should be somewhere over here instead of having to scroll down a little bit to over here. So minor things that can be moved around, but I do feel that this, personally, I like this concept, this mock-up better. I don't know if any of you had any other feedback as to which mock-up you personally preferred or you thought was looked nicer.
I agree with you. I like this mock-up better, and primarily because of the buttons. As far as the slideshow at the top, the slideshow is really nice. It is a huge amount of real estate.
Yes.
But at the same time, you don't want to overwhelm the viewer when they open up the page to have like everything in one. I mean, you don't want them to scroll, but like these buttons take them to so many places, right? And if the calendar is right there, as far as I can see, you know, so if somebody just clicks on that, that should take them directly to the calendar. So you have to be really careful not to overload it and make it look like you're walking into a garage sale when you get on that page. It needs to be clean and somewhat streamlined. So I would just, that would be my only feedback on, you know, if you're going to put both the slideshow and a calendar. I think that that's just going to be too much, and I think it's going to confuse the user a little bit. So I think that streamlined and clean is the best way to approach it.
Yeah, I mean, they're coming for a reason,
Right.
right? And the reason isn't the picture,
No,
Right.
right? So
it's not. It's not. You know, having a directory, one of the icons being a directory is probably not a bad idea either, because the times that I've gone on the website, the majority of the times it's to find out whether or not my child actually has school, like they said that they don't.
Yeah.
So I want to take a look at the calendar, or to find an athletic event and where it's going to be held, or to find someone in the district that I need to talk to. So having a directory button may not be a bad thing, and in the directory button having, you know, like having it as soon as they click on that, having the directory breakdown by school, yada yada yada, but like have that all hide behind a directory.
Yep, absolutely. We're looking to bring over most of the buttons that we currently have on our website, but I wanted to include the directory as a button. I do think that that's very important, because there are many times where that's why they're coming to our website, is to look for the directory of staff members and all that. So there are some things that we may take off as buttons, because you don't want to overload it, right? Like this site has 6. I think we can get away with possibly adding 2 more. And, you know, like one of them is food services has to stay there. That's the number one reason why people go to our website. Bus routes needs to be in there. You know, a district update, stuff like that. So, you know, I think we can add 2 more without making it too busy.
Well, the other thing is, if I were you, employment opportunities. I don't necessarily know if that would be top of mind, because if someone's coming and looking for a job, guess what they're going to do? They're going to look.
Yep.
They're going to scroll down to see if there's an employment opportunity. So to have that top of mind, I don't necessarily think is important. But I do think having an athletic calendar, you know, so that people don't have to scroll through the entire school calendar to find the athletic calendar kind of thing, when you don't know where the game is going to be. And, you know, so that I think might be
one of the things. That's one of the big things that I made sure that Gabbert was aware of, is right now, Weston Public Schools athletics is buried underneath the high school, and we are taking it out and we are making it its own separate site. So it's going to be listed just like a school is listed. Athletics is going to be its own separate thing for that specific reason. And that's always been an issue with school websites, is the people want to bury it under the high school, but it's not just the high school, right? So that's why it needs to be plucked out of there. So that's one of the things we're going to be doing as well.
Okay.
Dan, a couple of quick things.
Yeah.
By design, I presume Board of Ed is not on this page anymore?
No. So again, this was just a mock-up. Everything has to get changed. There's no hidden meaning there. No, Board of Education is going to be there. What ultimately this is going to change. So the menu options up top, there's going to be a Board of Ed and there's going to be a schools. So this is almost like a subpage. So this horizontal menu is going to change.
Okay. And then my other question was, do you have a sense of who primarily uses the website? Is if you were to kind of group it into 2 primary groups, students and parents? Do you know?
It's mostly parents. It's not students. Students don't go there that often.
Okay. All right. But
What ends up happening is the students, you know, at least from a K-8 perspective, they've got a device from us, and our device is automatically launched to like their school specific team pages or their school specific internal Google sites. So this is mostly parents and then residents in general, or prospective residents, which is why we feel that it's important that this prospective residence stays up here in every single page you go to. So when you see this top level one, this menu will always exist regardless of the page you're on. Whereas this horizontal menu will change if you're at the school level. or if you're in curriculum instruction.
Okay. And then to that end, so who actually does, I think what you said was we sort of have the landing page of the website, and then there are the individual schools.
Yep.
So is the company that's providing this template, who does the day-to-day editing? Is it the district, so to speak, the schools? Okay. And is that limited, which I think you said it is, limited insofar as the look, the feel, the layout between the schools will remain the same? It's the content that they'll be able to edit at the school level?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly it. We will, we would lock down the horizontal menu so that they cannot add specific new menus. They may want to add things to the sub menus, so like, let's say if the school has curriculum or, academics, right? There may be 5 overlapping academic themes that hit each building, but the high school may want to add 3 additional academics or, links under that menu. But the overall horizontal menu, they will not have the ability to change it. As well as right now, when we create a new page, there's a bunch of steps in order to select the proper design, to make sure we have the proper color patterns. That's manual. Even when we have templates, it's not 100%. Whereas with Gabbard, when they want to create a new page, it automatically brings everything in automatically. All the backgrounds, the colors, the template, the column, the font that's being used, that's all automatic. They just specifically change or add the content of the page in there.
I apologize. I have to switch to a different device. My iPad is just about out of juice. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Dan, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
You have access to all of the information as far as the users are concerned, right? So what things are being sought out most based upon the information, based upon user traffic. You also know where people drop off the most, right? So the reason I bring this up is because another reason why I go to the school website a lot of times is PowerSchool, right? To log into PowerSchool. And I think that PowerSchool login at the top is a little lost up there. But that's just my opinion. Have you seen from website traffic where the majority, like if they were going to have 6, max 8 buttons here, and again, just trying not to overwhelm the user, you should be able to tell what 6 or 8 areas people are most frequently going to and looking for. And you can also tell where their frustration mounts when they start dropping off in certain areas too, correct?
Yeah, well, it changes depending on the time of year as to what traffic gets hit the most. So like the end of August, it's the bus routes, right? The end of August, the beginning of September, that transportation page, even though, everything is now published, in other locations, people tend to go right to transportation. But number one far and away is food services. They want to know the menu. So that is the number one. The district calendar gets hit a lot. I have all the reports. So I'm going to be viewing all the reports to see what is getting accessed the most. A lot of times it's just the main page of the specific schools.
Okay. But that's actually what should dictate, in my opinion, that's actually what should dictate what those prominent buttons are all about, is 100% what people are looking for the most. And make sure that we're taking care of that. And we can make those seasonal too, right? We can have transportation there in the beginning of the year. We can have transportation there at the end of the year, and then, replace it with something else as the year progresses.
100%. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Dan, so I think it's great, and I'm thrilled that we're updating our website, because I noticed the other day the layout changed ever so slightly which is a much better layout.
Yeah.
Is it going to also display well on iPads? I know I'm not in the camp of really using an iPad for a lot, but I do now know how important it is that people tend to use whatever it is, a 6-inch iPhone screen to browse the web, which I think is insanity.
Yeah.
But that just shows my age. But as far as a layout goes, there'll be some continuity.
Yes.
Ease of reading on iPhones and iPads.
So what another reason why we are going to a product like this is they automatically mobile optimize every single web page. Whereas with WordPress, it is a separate section of WordPress to mobile optimize every single page individually. And which just infuriates me, but there's no easy way to set it so, with Gabbard, I'm going to put it out there. It's not just Gabbard who we're going to, it's all the other school-based website companies. They automatically mobile optimize the sites for you as you build the sites and as you add content to it. WordPress, if there's a way, I'm not smart enough to figure it out, because WordPress, again, is for web developers. Like, that is by far the most powerful product, but you almost need a degree in order to know how to run WordPress. So yes, to answer your question, mobile optimization has already been discussed ad nauseum, because I'm willing to bet that the majority of people who visit our website, they're visiting it from their phones. They're not visiting it from a computer. They're on the go. They're like, oh, wait, what's for lunch tomorrow? And they go on their phone. They're not going to walk to a computer. So I think that is 100% at the top of our discussions, is to make sure every page is mobile optimized. Because right now, if you go to our website on a phone, there are some pages where icons get shifted in front of links, and then you can't click on the darn link that you want to click on because the icon's in front of it, but there's nothing I can do to change it unless I blow away that web page and build it all from scratch. So it's frustrating on everybody's end, on the residents' end, on the public viewers' end, and on our end, on the back end.
Okay, and then I think I probably know the answer to this question, but I'll ask just because I'm curious if you gave it some thought. Who ultimately owns the content? I mean, I know we create it, so we own it intellectually, but is there a way to get out of Gabbard and take our content and layout with us, or is it proprietary to them?
We own it. We own all of the content. They may own the theme and design, but we own all of the content. That's part of the contract.
Okay. So if at some point there's another vendor out there.
Yep, we migrate. We migrate all the data over.
And is there a mechanism? Yeah. I mean, you don't want that to happen, but right. And is there a mechanism that you've asked them about how to get the content out? Or do you? Not. Okay.
I have not asked them what would happen if we leave, but basically, like, they're migrating all of our content for us from WordPress over to Gabbard, which is such a game changer. Previously, when we left the former website hosting company, which is called Finalsite, and we went internal, everybody here had to migrate stuff, including things that was from 2013, 2011. So we have broken dead links to this day. No matter how much we scour them, we still have dead links. This company's doing it for us. But I did not ask, in the event that we choose to leave them, which I'm hoping is never, what would be the mechanism other than copying and pasting.
Right. Okay. So that could be, I always, in my own line of work, that's one of the questions I typically advise my clients when they look to third-party vendors. If you ever want to leave, how do you get your data out? Because obviously it's not in their interest to help you load the truck and have you drive out, right? They want to. So I would just ask, for the purposes of completeness, how do we get our data out? And I totally agree and understand that at the end of the day, it might be copying and pasting, which would be done by potentially the new vendor or manually by district staff. Right. That would be the fallback. It's not like the data is not obtainable. It's just that at what level of difficulty.
Right, it was a copy and paste job when we left Finalsite and went to WordPress. Page by page, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. There's no export function. So for the next meeting, I'll have more information. I'll get information on the calendar, what our options are for the calendar. One last thing I forgot to bring in here. Part of our yearly subscription with Gabbard is unlimited training sessions from them. So if one of the admin assistants at the schools wants to learn something, she can make an appointment, one-on-one training with Gabbert, and it's unlimited trainings for the entirety of our contract, not just for the first year, but forever, which
That's great.
is a big, big game changer. And we are allowed one design refresh every year if we want to. So after year one, if we say, you know what, we're not big fans of our design, let's change it around, it's built into the price once a year.
By design refresh, you're not talking about changing a button, you're talking about changing the entire front page, correct?
Changing the entire look and design of the page, which we would want to avoid at all costs.
Yeah.
But if for some reason we need to, we do not have to pay extra for that.
Okay. And this is a wash financially, correct?
Yes, it's a wash.
Okay.
Yep. When it comes to hosting fees and having subcontractors come out and try to clean up the website and the monthly fees we have to pay for that, this is a wash. Website development used to be a lot more expensive than it is now. So I like that the price has actually gone down for website hosting. It's gone down significantly in 10 years, in the 10 years that, I've been working on sites like this.
Is that due to competitiveness or?
I think so. I think it's competitiveness, and it's also, it's not proprietary anymore. It's easy to do.
Right.
Storage space is much less expensive for companies now, and bandwidth is much less expensive. So this is one of the few times that as companies' costs have gone down, those decreased costs have actually been passed down to the customers, at least for school districts. I can't speak for anyone else.
Okay.
Any chance we can get someone to Photoshop out the no parking sign? I'm not really joking, to be honest.
Well, we're not going to use that as the main page, so
Okay.
don't worry. Don't worry. But I am quite good at Photoshop, so if we end up putting it up there, I'll Photoshop it out. How about that? Any other questions on the website?
Mm-mm.
All right.
Looks good.
It appears your landscaper is now over here. So hold on 1 second. All right, thank you. All right, thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Next item on our agenda is discussion on social media.
All right. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on continuation of what we did last year, which was pre-scheduled posts on Facebook, reminding people of Board of Ed meetings. So just to repeat the exact procedure, I'm going to go in the beginning of the month, and I'm going to pre-post pre-schedule posts as reminders about 24 hours before said board meeting that there is a board meeting. And then I will, as agendas are posted, because obviously if I'm doing all this in the beginning of the month, the agendas have not been posted for each of those meetings at the beginning of every month. They get posted, 48, 72 hours before the actual meeting itself. And we'll try to update that as part of the scheduled posts. Facebook did recently change their layout and structure of their business pages. So I have to really dive in a little bit deeper and see if there's anything value add. It's free anyways, so I'm just going to see if there's anything that we can add, we can use to our advantage for that. But we are still getting, a lot of interaction on social media now that we've completely separated. Whereas Instagram and and Facebook, used to mirror each other. Now Facebook is more informative. Instagram's the fun pictures. So now people are following both. So we've been doing really well with social media. Any questions on social media, Facebook or Instagram?
Dan, just what is the site on Facebook? Is it just Weston Public Schools? I've just not looked.
Yeah, so it's facebook.com Weston Public Schools CT.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I can't tell you how many times I have people contacting me thinking we're Massachusetts. It's so frustrating. So we had to put Weston Public Schools CT at the end of our page.
Well, since I am married to a Weston High School graduate from Weston, Massachusetts,
Wow.
I understand that. Yes.
The Weston connection.
Yeah. He's not good with change.
Right.
Yeah, and I remember now what my calendar question specifically was, and I think the answer is going to be no, but I'm going to ask it again just because, hey, you're redoing the website, so I'll keep asking. So the primary difference between the public schools calendar and the town calendar is that if you click on a event on the town calendar, you can choose to add it to Outlook or Gmail. You have the choice to just simply literally click on add to my calendar.
So instead of subscribing to their calendar, you can add specific individual events to your own personal calendar, whatever calendar you happen to use.
Right. And not to, I don't actually want to understate the value of that to the point where I think we really should push to try and get that functionality. The reason why it's so helpful is because there might be events, just to use the town, like I participate in a lot of the, not participate, but I at least consume a lot of the town meetings. And so being able to add to Outlook specific events in town that I'm interested in, it goes right into my personal Outlook. It includes all the detail, and I'm not subscribing to the calendar in general where maybe, you know what I'm saying, I'm only interested in Board of Finance. So if that functionality to add to Outlook, I've gotten that feedback from many people that it is so much easier to add a calendar item from the town than the schools. Why is it so different? So if there's, I would just say, if you can look at the way click on an event in town, you'll see when you click on it, there's an add to calendar link. And when you hover or click on add to calendar, it actually lets you pick Outlook, Gmail, or maybe other. It's very seamless. It works really well, and it's very targeted.
Add to my calendar. Look at that. And it downloads as an ICS. Okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah, I can't, it's something I've heard from people that it would be so much easier for them to manage singular events that are interesting to them.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it works really well. So
let me see how if there's a back end, if there's a way to do something like that. I'll talk to Gabbert. Maybe it's some kind of a plugin that we can do. So I'll check out. I know Weston, he uses a hosted product similar to Gabbert. So they use Granicus. So that's the municipal version of website hosting. So if a municipal website has something like that, I wonder if Gabbert can, if not now, if they can add that as a feature down the road. I'll definitely speak to them about that.
Yeah, I think it's something that since you're talking to them, obviously now is the time to ask.
100%.
So yeah, I just wanted to find it, but that very specific is what we're looking, would be very helpful.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I'll get back to you on that. And that's it for social media.
All right. Then moving right on down our list, the next item is the WPS podcast.
So Lisa's not here right now, but she will be continuing her What's Up in the Weston Public Schools podcast. So I just wanted to bring that up that, we've gotten such amazing feedback about her podcast, and she does such a great job interviewing people. What I love about it is that the podcast, they're not about her. They're about her interviewing and asking questions and sitting back and listening. So just want to put out there that, stay tuned over the next couple of months as to new guests and new podcast episodes.
All right. And let's see. Other communication issues. I have one item, but does anybody have anything that they've thought about all along that we want to undertake for communication? Because just to, as Sharon knows, but just for your benefit, Steve, the overall purpose of the communications committee, take on it is basically two things. Find out what we're doing today to engage and communicate with the community, and not just the students or the parents, but the community at large. And then one of the big things that I was a proponent of when I joined the Board of Ed was I feel like we as a Board of Ed don't proactively communicate enough with the town, that very often we're accused of not being transparent with a lot of things that we are transparent with. But if we're not telling people how to consume, how to find, how to listen, how to tune in when we're doing things, even if it's public, if we haven't gotten the word out, there is certainly a perception that we're not being transparent. So that the big thing for me when I joined communication was to try and push the communication out often, early, through multiple channels, so that if you're on Instagram, you get it there. If you're on Facebook, you get it there. If wherever you are, we can publish it. We can tell you where to find it. The only thing we can't do is come to your home or your office and actually load the page for you. And we probably could do that, but there might be some security issues there.
Well, David, I'm glad you said that, because first of all, I totally agree that communications is really paramount, and transparency. But we're about to go into a phase of determining how we're going to reconfigure the whole campus. And community.
Wait, hold on. Steve, we're losing. I think what you're saying is pretty valuable, but we're losing every other word. So
I'm sorry. I'm on my phone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So what I was saying is we're about to go into the next phase of facilities optimization, and communicating with the school community and the town is going to be very important, because it's going to have a long lasting impact on on everybody from children to to taxpayers. So this is what you're suggesting, David, is really important.
Yeah, and to that end too, just as board members, we know a lot more that's going on than Dan or Dan might be aware, right? So our role is to tell Dan this is an area that we as the Board of Ed want to make sure we're getting the messaging out on, and work with him on what the best way to do that is. So it's really important as Board of Ed members that when we're aware of something like Facilities Optimization Committee, there's going to be very big interest in that. FOC is a bit of this hybrid public school committee and town committee. How do we make sure that we let Dan know how he can get the information so we can publish it out there? So yeah, so that's that was kind of like the when I joined communication, that was my my focus, was making sure that we get the information out there through multiple channels. And that's why we talk about Facebook and Instagram, and be advertise that we're transparent, because even though we are, if we're not communicating when the meetings are and stuff like that, it has the appearance that we're not. Dan, so relative to meetings, one of the things that we talked about was people sometimes question whether or not the Board of Ed meetings are well publicized. And I know that with Facebook, you can schedule at the beginning of the month when the meetings actually are. And then I think we've talked about a couple of times, like a mailer or a newsletter or some kind of subscribe, like a MailChimp type of thing, where people who are interested in when Board of Ed meetings are also get the information pushed to them. Did we determine that really was not feasible?
Well, we don't have anything in our ability that can do that, but that's why I was saying it's not just putting in the beginning of the month, here are the meetings coming up for the month, but then a scheduled post 24 to 48 hours before each meeting that will be reminder, communications committee, 9 a.m. on what's today's date, the 9th, on September 9th. Here's the link to watch the meeting. So, but from a all resident notification, we do not have access to that.
Okay. And as far as scheduling these alerts to go out, nothing. I did subscribe to the Facebook, group. I didn't get any sort of notification for today's meeting.
I have
Yesterday.
not set it up. I wanted to just reiterate it today. So then
Okay.
after this meeting, I'm going to be setting it up. And now I have a reminder for the first of every month to do the schedule postings.
Okay. All right. So the one new item that I have, which is I can't remember who I talked with at the Board of Ed. I almost want to say it may have been you, Steve. It's not directly communication exclusive, but it is a communication area, and I think it's probably best to, without Lisa not being here, maybe scratch the surface and come back to it in a month. One of the things, or maybe Melissa I was speaking to, but one of the things that I think that we should be interested in from a communication perspective within the district is the enrollment. Why are parents choosing to send their kids out of district or to a private school? And one of the questions that I had was, do we as a Board of Ed or the public school, when a parent chooses to not to take their kid out of district, do we really spend enough time and energy on the why? And I know an easy why is simply, I had an opportunity to send my kid to XYZ school and we can do it, and she will get more one-on-one. But are we digging below or digging further than that easy answer? Because I think it's an important question that we as a Board of Ed need to know relative to enrollment. Why are kids leaving the schools if they haven't moved out of town?
Can I add something to that? You didn't discuss it with me, David, but I actually
No, we lost you. We lost you again, Steve.
I'm maybe I'll quote. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You didn't discuss it with me, but I actually had a conversation with Lisa and Melissa in the downtime. We were just talking about that. First of all, that's really important because kids are leaving, especially at the high school level, and we're going to boarding school, we're going to day private school, and we don't know why. Right, to your point. But what we also don't know, and we're not the only community, because I've had this conversation with the former head of the Board of Finance in Westport, who's still on the Board of Finance, but he decided not to continue as chairman, is we don't know who actually has moved here. Right, so we don't really know. We've had huge housing turnover. Intuitively, you would think that people without children were leaving, and people that were moving in you would think they would have children, and that's just not the experience that we've seen with enrollment, and nor has Westport, by the way. And so we were talking about we should know this. We should figure out a way of welcome to Westport, welcome to Weston. Something totally and not intrusive to give us at least a fighting chance to know who's moved into the community. And, the Kiwanis Club does things where they welcome people into the community. And to your point, David, it'd be nice to know why people have left. And it'd be really great to know, who's actually here. Because we may find an influx in elementary school in a relatively short period of time, but that's a adjunct to what you were suggesting.
Well, you broke up there. We're going to see an influx at the elementary school, you were saying?
No, intuitively you would think that. So, but we don't know.
But are we seeing already an increase in the number of preschool requests with the local preschool? And what are we seeing as far as the preschools in the surrounding area? That's something I think we need to figure out too.
Yeah.
Because, I absolutely agree with you that, for the number of housing turnovers that we've seen during COVID, we should definitely be seeing an influx of students, unless there is, a tremendous amount of young families that moved in here with young preschool age children. And I think that there's definitely some of that. From personal experience, I know that there's some of that, but it can't account for all of it. So, was it people from the city who moved in here because they wanted to have an escape, to get to, and they bought those houses, or was it, people are actually coming here with their kids and sending them to private school? So that's there's three different prongs that we can see. And maybe that explains, the numbers. But if they are sending their kids to private schools, and they are full-time residents here, that is actually a bigger question than if it's a weekender from the city, or the other. So yeah, I agree. We need to investigate that. We need to find out what the actual situation is, and if that's the case, why. But I do think, David, one thing, as far as the communications committee is concerned, I'm not quite sure that that's in our wheelhouse. I think as a board, it's within our wheelhouse, but the communications committee, a lot of times when people move their kids to private school, it's because of, social situations and things that they're not necessarily going to be all that comfortable discussing. So I think it's something that we need to have an understanding of, so that if there's something we can do to change it, that we do that. But, I'm not sure how that really falls under the communications umbrella.
Yeah, I think now that I remember, it was with Melissa I spoke to initially about the importance of finding out why students are leaving the district when the family hasn't moved out of town. And Melissa suggested we start it at communication, and then from communication, we bring it to the board. It is 100%, at the committee levels, we don't do it. We talk about something and then bring it to the board. So I think that Melissa's thought was start it at communication, because it's information that we want to gather, and we really want to find out, why, really have an opportunity somehow to ask a parent, why, get more detail.
But I think that comes more from just my 2 cents here, but I think that for us to reach out to the parent is going to be tricky. I think that when the parents are requesting transcripts and things, for that conversation to take place, when they're requesting the transcripts and the recommendations, that's where that needs to happen. And the school, they should be well aware of why the parents are asking for the transcripts. They'll know whether or not that child is, an athlete and has been offered an opportunity at a boarding school that's going to help them, get into a D1 university, or whether or not this child has struggled socially, and as a result, it's not a good social fit for this child, whether or not it's an academic change. The child needs more one-on-one, academic support than what they're able to get in a public school system. So those are the types of things that honestly, it's the school counselors who are going to be able to provide, I think, a lot of insight into that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think maybe what we can do is bring it to the board. This is something that we think is worth exploring. And procedurally, it seems like, Sharon, you're right. At the point that they request a transcript, there should be some mechanism within each of the schools that triggers maybe the primary point of contact within the school. So that it's not like we're getting so many of these that it would overload a single staff member, but maybe at each school, there is a primary point of contact when a transcript is requested, rather than just providing the transcript and closing the request, so to speak. It's then also somebody else is made aware of it, and that somebody else is the one that reaches out to actually try and have, a one-on-one conversation with the parent or guardian to, really understand the why. Because you're right, the why could be as simple as scholarship opportunity. It could be lots of things, but I'm in CES, and one of the things that came up at Cooperative Education Services last week is a lot. We are not the only school district seeing kids leave. Mm-hmm. Stanford seems to be seeing that, or at least a representative that for Stanford who was at the meeting really kind of opened our eyes to that there are potentially reasons that we would not necessarily know, but would be worth trying. We wouldn't intuitively know, but would be worth finding out if parents would feel comfortable opening up and talking to us.
So when I transferred my son as a junior in high school over to a private school, I had a conversation with his guidance counselor to request the transcript. So that was my first point of entry, because you need a transcript, and your guidance counselor is going to be able to offer that. The secretary ultimately sends it to you, but the guidance counselor puts in the request. So the guidance counselor is going to be a really big resource for that. And in addition to that, this is prior to my coming onto the board, Lisa reached out to me individually and asked me, And she was still the principal of the high school at that stage, but she reached out to me to ask me specifically, you know, if there was anything that she could do to keep him as a student there. And, you know, because he'd been in the school system since 7th grade. And so to them, it was a bit of a shock. And so as a parent, I gave her my feedback. And so, you know, the building principals and the superintendent and the guidance counselors are kind of going to be the people that, it's my guess, are going to be able to reach out to the parents to find out, because those are very sensitive conversations sometimes. Other times the parents are, you know, blowing the horn from the top of the highest mountain when they're really proud of the fact that their kid got into, you know, a boarding school to go to a D1 or whatever. Everybody's got different circumstances, but I think it's the middle school, right? Because we see a lot of attrition from middle school to high school. That's where a lot of kids will want to go ahead and start into a private school. And sometimes their sophomore year as well. Mine was a little bit more of a blip in the junior year, but it also happened during COVID. So, but anyway, that's my 2 cents.
No, I mean, it's good to hear your experience with it. So I just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can, especially to circle back to the facilities optimization, the lower enrollment. You know, what is the trend that's going on? Because, you know, to the other end, which is people that the housing market that's changed. On my own road, 2 very large houses changed hands, and they both changed hands to people without any kids. So, you know, I think it is, you know, what we may be seeing is, if I have, you know, $1.5 million or $2 million real estate budget, I'm going to go from Manhattan to Weston, where it's quiet and the taxes are the taxes, you know, they're not that much higher. So it would be, it's information I think we have to try and gather, because it's going to be really important to what our facilities look like. And,
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that piece of the puzzle definitely has to be in place in order for our facilities decisions to be, you know, defensible. Like, so, yeah.
All right. Well, that was my one item. I don't have anything else. Does anybody have anything else?
I'm good.
All right. Well, then if I can get a motion to adjourn.
I can make a motion.
And I'll second.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you,
Good to see
everybody.
you. Bye.
Med student.